These aircraft weighing more than 200 tons was about to turn into nothing but a glider over the dark Atlantic Ocean, without a single engine running. Below was thousands of feet of deep ocean. Above was the darkness of night, and there was no runway anywhere nearby to land. Before this day, there had never been a recorded case in commercial aviation history where a fuel leak drained all the fuel completely. There was no pilot who had ever dealt with such a situation. No training manual, no checklist, no precedent. There was absolutely nothing that could tell the pilots what to do next. It was August 23rd, 2001, around 11 p.m. At Toronto's Toronto Pearson International Airport, there was a busy atmosphere. During the summer season, the gates were crowded with people, families, couples, students. Everyone was boarding their respective flights, and at one of those gates stood Air Transat flight TSC 236, a regular overnight flight from Toronto to Portugal. There were 293 passengers and 13 crew members on board, a total of 306 people. Most of the passengers were Portuguese origin Canadians traveling to Portugal during summer vacation. At 12:52 a.m. on August 24th, the flight took off from Toronto. To reach Lisbon Portugal, it had to cross the entire Atlantic Ocean. Within minutes after takeoff, the plane reached an altitude of 39,000 feet and continued its journey. Passengers had dinner, some watched movies, children fell asleep, and slowly the cabin lights were dimmed. Like a completely normal transatlantic flight, the aircraft was peacefully flying over the dark Atlantic Ocean. From the outside, everything appeared normal. But inside the cockpit, something was happening that would make this flight one of the most dangerous. The people on board had no idea that a time bomb was ticking over the middle of the ocean. All the fuel of this plane was about to run out, and both its engines were going to shut down. On top of that, the flight was under the command of a pilot who had served years in prison on drug smuggling charges, but no one on the plane knew about his past. The beginning of this problem actually started 9 days earlier. It was a difference of just a few millimeters that would decide the fate of this aircraft. On August 15th, 2001, during a routine inspection, the maintenance team found metal chips in the right engine's oil system. This was a very serious sign that something was wrong. 2 days later, on August 17th, metal particles were found again. Now the airline had no option. It was clear that the engine had to be replaced. But the problem was that Air Transat had no spare engine available, so they borrowed an engine from Rolls-Royce. And this is where the real problem began. Now imagine your phone charger breaks, and you replace it with a similar looking one. It looks the same from the outside, but the internal pin is slightly different. It may work for a few days, but eventually it short circuits. Exactly the same thing happened with this aircraft. The replacement Rolls-Royce engine was of an older design. The aircraft system was of a newer design. From the outside, everything looked identical, but internally, the fuel and hydraulic tube fittings were slightly different. And during inspection, this difference was not detected. The engine replacement work started on the midnight of August 17th. It had to be completed by Sunday afternoon because the plane had a scheduled flight. The mechanics were under intense time pressure. When the mechanics started the installation, a problem appeared. The aircraft's hydraulic pump would not fit on the new engine because a fuel tube was in the way. When the lead technician checked the Airbus parts list, he realized the tube design was different. He did not understand how to fit this older engine with the newer pump. He tried opening the Rolls-Royce manual on 3 different computers, but due to network issues, it did not open. The services bulletin manual was actually available on offline CDs in the same building, but the technician did not know about those CDs. The document on which hundreds of lives depended was inside the building, but no one searched for it. Under time pressure, the technician took a shortcut. He installed the new design fuel tubes, but left the hydraulic tubes of the old design. Now this engine had 2 mismatched tube designs. The Rolls-Royce service bulletin clearly stated that fuel and hydraulic tubes must always be replaced as a set, but no one read it. When the hydraulic system pressurized, the flange rotated closer to the fuel line. 2 metal tubes that should never touch began rubbing against each other. No one noticed. The engine passed the ground run test. Everything looked normal. No leak. No warning. The Airbus, the 330, had no direct fuel leak detection sensor. The aircraft was released for flight. It flew several flights afterward. With every flight, vibrations caused the tubes to rub. Slowly, the fuel tube wall wore down. It was only a matter of time before it cracked. Returning to the night of August 24th, Flight 236 was flying over the Atlantic. It had 46.9 metric tons of fuel, 5.5 tons more than required. At 4:38 a.m., the flight data recorder showed fuel decreasing rapidly. An L-shaped crack had formed in the fuel tube. Fuel began leaking. There was no cockpit alarm, no warning light. The leak rate reached 13 metric tons per hour. Fuel was silently pouring into the Atlantic Ocean. At 5:03 a.m., abnormal oil readings were noticed in the right engine. At 5:33 a.m., a fuel imbalance advisory appeared. The crew chose to handle it from memory instead of using the checklist. They opened the crossfeed valve. Now, fuel from both wings was feeding into the leak. The problem doubled. At 6:30 a.m., the aircraft was descending toward the Azores. The captain diverted to Lige's Air Base on Terceira Island in the Azores. At 6:26 a.m., the right engine shut down due to fuel starvation. 30 minutes later, the left engine also shut down. The aircraft became a glider. It was still 144 kilometers away from the airport. The cockpit screens went dark. The main generators failed. The cabin lights went out. Panic spread. The REM air turbine automatically deployed. For 19 minutes, the aircraft glided powerless. At 6:45 a.m., it landed at Lige's Air Base. The landing was hard. Tires burst. Sparks flew. A small fire started but was extinguished. All 306 people were evacuated in under 2 minutes. Not a single person died. There were 2 serious injuries and 16 minor injuries. Captain Robert Pitch was hailed as a hero. Later, his past drug conviction became public. Despite that, he remained a hero for saving 305 lives. This incident became one of aviation history's most incredible survival stories. Multiple failures led to that night. Design, issues, shortcuts, unread manuals, and missed warnings. But in the end, 306 people stood safely on solid ground in the Azores.